Hey, we are live. Check it out, folks. I'm actually very excited about today's guest. As you may know, my mother's North Korean, my father's South Korean, and I've always been trying to find out more about what's going on with, my background, and this man has actually. We're gonna find out more about him. So, can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Dermot. I'm chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK, of KFA for the UK, and I'm the chairman of the British group for the study of the future here. And as you've said, I've visited the Democratic People's Republic of Korea 18 times since 1992. I also run a YouTube channel, Song 007.
Okay, I'm sorry. The sound quality is so bad. It is what it is. But you said your name is Dermot Hudson. I think you said that you were associated with KFA or Korean Friends Association, something like that.
Korean Friendship Association, yeah.
Okay. So also, I believe that you've been featured as a commentator for, or to provide perspective on North Korea on several large programs. I've seen you interview with some things going on. You're actually from London, am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. I'm a Londoner, yeah.
So,
Very much so.
so what are some of the programs that have featured your commentary regarding North Korea?
Well, on the hostile side, I've been on the BBC twice. I've been on Al Jazeera. I've been on TRT, which is the Turkish sort of TV, global TV network for Turkey. I've also, which you've probably seen, been interviewed by Flame of Liberation twice, and I did a digital for the Finnish Bolshevik. Which
Dermot, I'm so sorry. The audio is so bad. I'm going to actually. I don't usually use Skype. Have you ever used Google Meet? I want to try something else because the audio is just so bad. Yeah.
I've used Skype and I've used Google Meet.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
I
have used
think
Google
I
Meet?
can use Google.
Okay, Google Meet does put us on an hour time
Yeah,
limit, which is annoying. But or I might be able to try the Skype. But let me see if I can load up Skype right now. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I really appreciate your time, but the audio here is just not really usable. Yeah. So let me load the Skype up. Hopefully it doesn't ask me to log in, which I'm sure it will. Oh my God, I'm in. Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you what. I'm gonna actually um, how do I actually send you this thing as in terms of Skype? Do you know? Ha-
right. I'm actually on Skype on UK 0071
okay, I just sent you
on
a wave.
Skype.
So I'm actually going to close this out and then try to restart this. And
So,
we're still live, but I'm just going to try to move this over to Skype. So I'm going to end this particular meeting, and I just sent you a wave on Skype. Do you see it?
okay, well, I'm just looking into Skype.
Yeah, hopefully it's better. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Okay. While we're waiting, just sent the on Skype.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
The audio is way better, way better. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank
Oh,
God. Yeah.
great. Oh, well,
Okay.
that's something.
It really is. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Let me see if I can change my camera to the right camera here. and we should be able to start in a moment. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so my camera should be working now. We'll just I'm gonna go to view like this, together, or grid mode. Go together. Okay. I'm not even gonna worry about that. You're the star of the show, yeah. So let's go. All right. So now that the audio is so much better, I really appreciate it. Well, once again, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience? I don't think they were able to hear that before. So your name is Dermot Hudson. You're representing KFA. Go ahead. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh my goodness, yeah. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, apparently he cannot hear me, yeah? Oh my goodness, yeah. Let me see, okay.
Okay, I can see you.
Okay, but you cannot hear me? Can you hear me?
The sound is a bit soft.
Okay.
I don't know if you can turn it up at all.
Okay, how about now? Is it better now?
It's much better. I can hear clearly.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you so much. All right, so let's restart the interview with introduce yourself to my audience. I'm very excited to have you on. Yeah? Go ahead.
The sound's gone completely now. Can't hear anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you tell me once again, can you share with the audience once again who you are?
It's cut out completely, the sound. I can see that you're speaking, but I can't hear anything.
Okay. Either my audio... Well, okay, so let me type in the questions, yeah? Can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Okay.
Okay. I'll type in the questions, yeah? Okay, cool.
Okay, right. We'd do it that way. Right, well, good evening from London. I'm Dr. Dermot Hudson. I'm the chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK and the official delegate of KFA for the UK. The Korean Friendship Association was founded in November 2000 by Alejandro Caldebenos. We've got over 17,000 members worldwide and chapters in many countries, including the USA. I'm also chairman of the British Group for the Study of the Juche Idea, and I'm the owner of the Sungam 007 YouTube channel. And I've actually been to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or People's Korea, or Socialist Korea, 18 times. First time was in 1992. And I'm honoured to be giving this interview. Right, what got me into the DPRK? Well, that is a long story. Goes right back to the early and mid-80s when I was a member of the Communist Party of Great Britain, a party that no longer exists, though it's got different successor parties. I was a member of that, and I sort of supported the Soviet Union and the East European socialist countries, but I became disillusioned both with the party in Britain and also with the USSR, which I saw as, selling out, compromising. This was even before Glasnost and Perestroika. They were doing things like building Pepsi Cola plants in the Soviet Union. And I was looking for an alternative to what I later came to see as the revisionist ideology of the Soviet Union and of the Communist Party of Great Britain. And I looked, different countries, and said, came across the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It was very hard, as it is now, but it was even harder in those days because you didn't have the internet to find anything out about it. I read a essay about the DPRK in a collection of articles or essays on the socialist countries. So I read an article by the US academic Professor Bruce Cummings, who I'm sure you know of and probably have read some of his works. And, you know, that was one pointer. And, you know, interested me. You know, he said the DPRK was really independent of both China and the Soviet Union. My interest grew when I read a couple of newspaper articles. One, surprisingly, a bit sympathetic in the Observer Colour magazine. You know, it seems like another world now. And an article of that kind about the DPRK would never get published now in the mainstream media. And, you know, I resolved to try and find out more about the DPRK myself. And I happened to be discussing it with some Communist Party members. I said, well, where can I find works of Kim Il-sung? And they said, oh, there's a second-hand bookshop in a back street in Southampton. They're selling President Kim Il-sung's works and works on the DPRK. So I went down there, bought volume 5 of Kim Il-sung Selected Works, a little book that I've still got now called Korean Review 1974. And my interest just grew from there. I found the DPRK absolutely fascinating. I first came across the Juche idea for the first time. It was very new to me. And I was, you know, very impressed reading about all the advances made in DPRK society. And, you know, the fact they did things like abolish taxation, had very, very, very low cost housing, you know, virtually free housing. I found it absolutely amazing. And I was also very impressed by the militant anti-imperialist stand of the DPRK, which no other socialist country except maybe Cuba had. So I was, you know, incredibly impressed, and I resolved to study the DPRK, resolved to study the Juche idea, and it, you know, that's when it all started. Right. Well, I think there's several things that are unique about the DPRK. It has its own ideology, the Juche idea, which incorporates some features of Marxism-Leninism, the ideas of Marx, Lenin, Stalin, but at the same time it goes beyond them. And, you know, in particular, the DPRK has always put strong emphasis on ideological work. And the Juche idea stipulates that you've got to keep ideology ahead of everything else, because if you don't, everything else will fall down eventually. And of course, that's what happened with the old Soviet Union. You know, they didn't place enough stress on ideology, and you know, it actually crumbled and rotted from within. And you know, the DPRK has a very strong anti-imperialist line. When I started studying it in the 1980s, you know, I read a work that President Kim Il-sung had written in 1968 when he was talking about the Pueblo incident, to a meeting called for the anniversary of the foundation of the Korean People's Army. And he said, oh, the US threaten us. They will get corpses and death out of it. Very militant stand, in such a contrast to the Soviet Union, which, you know, even when I was very, very young and first got involved in politics, you know, the Soviets were always talking about peaceful coexistence and détente, and that degenerated into sort of open collaboration with imperialism. So that's, the things that impressed me about the DPRK. And they've got a real strong emphasis on national culture in the DPRK. They're quite independent. They didn't copy the Soviet Union. And, they upheld independence. The East European socialist countries were very dependent on the Soviet Union, and in some cases sort of copied the Soviet style. Well, certainly President Kim Il-sung, in his works in the one of his works in the 1960s, he refers to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and refers to the uprisings of black people. And in several works, he makes reference to the intense racial discrimination, in fact, oppression of black people in the US. And of course, there was a close relationship between the DPRK and the Black Panther Party. They did more than exchange fraternal messages. The Black Panther Party actually sent delegations to the DPRK. And Eldridge Cleaver, although he was later to become a turncoat, because I think he ended up becoming a US Republican, he visited the DPRK, and his daughter was actually born in a DPRK hospital. I think that showed the very sort of close relationship between the Black Panthers and the DPRK. Yeah, that's right. Monica, if I pronounced the second name right, Macias, she was actually the daughter of the former president of Equatorial Guinea. And Equatorial Guinea, for a time, had a sort of socialist regime, which was overthrown, and that government had very close relations with the DPRK, and President Kim Il-sung said that if anything happened to President Macias, he would make sure his children were taken care of. So both the children were sent to the DPRK after the murder of President Macias, and were actually brought up at the Manyong-dae Revolutionary School, which is a school for the children of revolutionary martyrs in the DPRK. And it wasn't just his children. Apparently, the children of the president of Benin, People's Republic of Benin, a West African country, were also brought up there. So there were, several black people living in the DPRK, and there's this whole myth created by a character called B.R. Myers, who teaches at a South Korean university. He's written these books accusing the DPRK of being racist, but in fact, there's several small communities of foreigners in the DPRK, like the people from the Japanese Red Army, who hijacked the Japan Airlines flight back in 1970 or 1971, and hijacked it to the DPRK, and they have their own little community in the DPRK now, which has its a website, for example. So, you know, there are small groups of, you know, non-Koreans in the DPRK, and I believe some, I'm not sure, but I believe some Palestinians and Lebanese have lived in the DPRK as well. And yeah, just thought the last bit of the question I'm just seeing here. I've never actually met her. You know, London, not quite as big as New York, but it's still a big city. And what I've been told, because I haven't yet read the book she's brought out this year, but someone I knew read it on Kindle, and some of it is hostile to the DPRK. And in the footnotes, it said that Chad O'Carroll and Jacko Zedslut of NK News, which of course is a very anti-DPRK website run by the CIA, were involved in the writing of the book. So that might account for why there's a bit of hostility towards the DPRK in the book. Okay, yeah. Well, yes, I'm only sort of repeating what someone told me who read the book on Kindle. But I say, you know, with a lot of books, they do get edited quite a lot, and you know, maybe the editors put in hostile stuff. And I say, if she's cooperated with Chad O'Carroll, you know, there'd be a few weasel words about the DPRK put into the book. Huh. Oh well, Miss Park. Well, you know, where can I start? I mean, what do I think of her? Well, if I said what I thought of her, it'd be sort of unrepeatable. It would be swearing. She's, you know, well, just unbelievable. I mean, there's sort of obviously lots of grifting going on. You know, she's making a lot of money out of it. Unfortunately, some people do believe the lies she tells about the DPRK, and the stuff she says is just off the wall, and it has been discredited so many times and debunked. I mean, I was just on Twitter one day, and I saw that she'd said in the DPRK there's power cuts, so the trains stop. Everyone has to get out the train and push the train. And someone looked at the weight, an actual weight of a try and push it, and of course it's impossible. And this got mocked online, and you know, all the time she's telling lies, and you know, she's backed up by extreme liberals and the far right. You know, and I think quite right-wing Americans like her, and you know, send her money. And you know, there was an incident I'm not familiar with, but where she was, you know, allegedly racist. You know, and at the end of the day, I mean, I'd say several things. I mean, firstly, she's someone who actually now hasn't lived in the DPRK for a very long time. She came from a small city in the north of the DPRK. So and as I say, she left the DPRK when she was quite young. I think about 8 years old or something like that. So I think quite objectively, what she would know would be very limited, to say the least. And she says silly things like, "Oh, there's no museums in the DPRK." Well, you know, I've been to Pyongyang and I've never seen so many museums in my life. And I think, you know, once my daughter was with me in the DPRK, and she said, all these museums, and they're so big, you know, they're such a massive size. But, you know, according to Yomi Park, you know, there's no museums in the DPRK. There's no beaches. You know, what is Wonsan then? You know, great big beach. You know, it's been turned into a giant holiday resort. Into a giant holiday resort. You know, and she is just poisonous. You know, there's a DPRK documentary about her, which calls her a poisonous mushroom, and where they actually interview, I think you've seen it, where they actually interview some relatives of hers in the DPRK and neighbours who tell their stories. In terms of, you know, alternative sources, well, all I can recommend is DPRK sources, Korean people who support the DPRK. And in the US, unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, victim of COVID-19, I believe. There was Ro Kilnam, or Kilnam Ro, who lived in California, and he visited the DPRK many times. I met him in the DPRK. He was originally from the South, and, you know, I think his YouTube channel is still up, where he's done a couple of interviews, including with the children of Joe Dresnok. You know, he did quite good work, but so unfortunately passed away. So, you know, I can't think of anyone else, you know, who I could sort of put you in touch with. I mean, I can send you a link to the website and YouTube channel that he's got in a minute. I'll just do. Yeah, it is Kill Nam Ro. Yeah, as you've written it. That's how I used to know him on social media. And, you know, Koreans in the KFA, yes, there's one or two. KFA itself is banned in South Korea. So anyone joining KFA in South Korea has to keep it a secret. But I think one or two Koreans, you know, Koreans in the Korean diaspora are in KFA. Right. Well, just before I answer the question about Trump, I'll just try and find the links to those websites, and I'll put them in.
All right, he can't hear me, but I'm gonna thank him right now. That was really cool. Yeah, this is a really dope interview so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's kind of rough to not because he can't hear me because I guess there's mic setup and stuff, but we're still we're just typing in the questions. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just put those links in for you, then I'll. Yeah, and I'll try and get their YouTube channel. Yeah, this computer is very slow. I'll just try and get. Okay, just put the link to the channel. There you go. Yeah, I would agree with that assessment of Trump. He did go back and forth. At first, he was incredibly hostile. There was that awful speech, Fire and Fury, and I was actually in the DPRK a few days after he made it. And then there was the speech at the UN, which really sort of, that went beyond anything because, he was actually using the UN as a platform to slander and threaten the DPRK and threaten the leadership of the DPRK, which sort of went, way outside of normal diplomatic parameters. And then he did like a somersault, a real, backflip, and wanted to negotiate with the DPRK, which is incredible. And there again, he went beyond previous US presidents because, there's been on-off negotiations between the DPRK and the US since the late 80s. But this has usually been done through the back door. It's really been often the State Department meeting DPRK diplomats in a third country. But, he actually, met the supreme leader of the DPRK, Marshal Kim Jong-un, in person, which no other US president had ever done. He got attacked a lot from his own side for doing that. He was attacked by his own side. He was also attacked by liberals. But, I find Trump's motives, a bit mysterious. I think there was an element that he thought he could prove himself better than other US presidents by directly negotiating with the DPRK. I think he had a lot of overconfidence. I think he thought that somehow he could tell the DPRK to give up socialism and embrace capitalism, and that all he needed to do was explain it himself, and also to make the DPRK disarm, and of course, the DPRK is not fooled at all. They are very independent and they are astute. And I think also Trump may have promised things to the DPRK, like pulling the troops out of South Korea, which he then couldn't deliver, as he probably felt, he could pull the troops out, but the US bureaucracy, the military-industrial complex, would oppose that. And I'm sure, there's evidence that he got told that by his defense secretary that, he could not do that. And also, I think some people behind Trump, like John Bolton, the bloke who looks like Yosemite Sam, from those old American cartoons. He wanted to take a very hard line in the negotiations, and is the story again. I don't know whether it's true that when there was the summit in Vietnam, Bolton passed a sheet of paper across the table, and it was basically telling the DPRK to give up all its nukes, shut down the whole nuclear industry, scrap all the intercontinental ballistic missiles. And of course, the DPRK was having none of it. And, they made it clear at the start of the negotiations that they rejected the so-called Libyan scenario. And this was, when Colonel Gaddafi, a leader who I in some ways admired, and pursued socialist policies, Libya had a small nuclear program, and they actually shut it down. Not only shut it down, but they sent the materials to a US institution. They basically surrendered it. And some in the US and some of those behind Trump wanted the DPRK to do that. So, that's why the negotiations failed. And what do I think of Trump? Well, he's just quite a maverick. I think he will be remembered by, on the one hand, internally a racist leader, very right, incredibly right wing, but on the other hand, one who showed some courage in reaching out to the DPRK and trying to negotiate, but of course it failed. Right. Well, this is the question we get asked an awful lot, and recently in Britain, we had the coronation, Charlie Boy's big party, and again, some so-called leftists and liberals tried to make comparisons with the DPRK. I think it's quite wrong, and if you do, take the UK and DPRK, put them side by side, Marshal Kim Jong-un, he was appointed Supreme Commander of the DPRK's armed forces by the Political Bureau of the Workers' Party of Korea, and then later elected to positions by a conference of the Workers' Party of Korea, and by the Supreme People's Assembly. And the Workers' Party of Korea is a mass party with millions of members from all walks of life. So it was the party's decision, whereas with Charles, it was just automatic. He was the eldest son of Queen Elizabeth, so he automatically became king, and you had this bizarre ceremony with crowns and anointing oils and bishops and so on, and in fact, in no way can you sort of relate that to the DPRK and the processes that exist in the DPRK. And I think the reason why President Kim Il-sung, Chairman Kim Jong-il, and now Marshal Kim Jong-un have become leaders of the DPRK is because of their outstanding record. President Kim Il-sung, he fought against the Japanese imperialists, and won the independence of the country, built a socialist state in incredibly difficult conditions, war with the US, sanctions, so-called allies of the DPRK who tried to interfere, tried to impose their own patterns on the DPRK. And similarly, Chairman Kim Jong-il, he led the DPRK through a very difficult period, made the DPRK nuclear power, and Marshal Kim Jong-un is doing a very good job. Now in the DPRK, they've got the worst ever sanctions, but at the same time, they're building whole new streets, the size of towns. It's incredible. So the support that the Korean people give to them is not because they want it to be like a monarchy, like a family, what you say, dynasty, but because of their actual record. And I'd also sort of make the point is I think sometimes the DPRK is unfairly singled out over this, because there's other countries, people don't talk about India, where you had Nehru, then his daughter Indira Gandhi, and then her son Rajiv Gandhi, and I think there's still several Gandhis around now in Indian politics. But the BBC were continuously using the cliche, the world's biggest democracy, to refer to India, which, as I say, also had a family line run, involved in the politics of it. And quite a few countries, you will see, there are political families, leadership going over several generations. And in fact, the US has its different sort of family, I think, leadership groups, like the Kennedys, like Bush Senior and Bush Junior as well. So I think, the DPRK is singled out, and it's sort of put, it's put under scrutiny. I think there's tremendous hostility generated against the DPRK by the mainstream media, and regrettably some on the left. And it's just, it means everything the DPRK does is put under intense scrutiny, whether it's leadership questions or even very mundane things, and they find, they're always trying to find hidden reasons for doing things, like, they were saying all the women who are traffic police in Pyongyang are chosen because of their good looks and this kind of thing. And I thought, well, I'm sure that's not really the case. But you get all this kind of very sort of warped thinking. Right, seeing how far things have gone and Korea remains separately, do you think reunification is possible? Well, yes, I think reunification is possible. Korea is one. Chonsan Haneda, and it's something desired by the entire Korean people and by overseas Koreans. And when I've been to Korea and when I've been down to Panmunjom, to me, the division of Korea looks very artificial. There isn't a geographical or ethnic reason for Korea's division. It's something that the US imposed. The story I read in several different places was that 2 US colonels took a map of Korea, got a ruler and a pencil and drew a line across and said, oh yes, we could be 38th parallel. And that's how they divided Korea. And they say Professor Bruce Cummings, he made the point, that, why was Korea divided? Why not Japan? Because Japan was the aggressor nation and Korea was the victim of Japan. So it would have made sense to divide Japan, but it was Korea that got divided. I think reunification will come sooner or later. The DPRK over the years has put forward policies for peaceful reunification. They've even adopted the idea of two systems, one country, the idea of a confederal republic of Korea, the ancient name of Korea, which, for the time being, the two systems would be left intact. That proposal has been on the table for a long time. As you know, many summits have taken place. The first one was under Chairman Kim Jong-il's leadership when he met Kim Dae-jung from the then ruler of South Korea on June 15th, 2000. And then you had the 2007 summit, and then you had the summits in 2018. And I think the reason why progress has not been achieved is basically because of the US occupation of South Korea and their support for anti-reunification separatists, for far-right regimes in South Korea. South Korea is really a fascist country. Some people don't like to hear that, but I mean, that's what it is. It's got the national security law, which people can be jailed for up to 7 years for using the DPRK. And as I say, Koreans in the South cannot openly join KFA. They have to do it secretly. But I'm confident that one day there will be a massive movement for reunification, and that the fascist structures in South Korea will be swept away, and there will be reunification. I can't say when exactly, but I'm sure it's going to come one day. Because as I've said, there's no rational or logical reason for Korea's division. Well, what can I recommend you do? Yes, I'm just reading the other bit. Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, totally agree. The US always interferes, and really, though, again, some people don't like to hear it. The whole situation in Ukraine was caused by US interference, going back to 2014. And now it's really a proxy war against the Russian Federation. And the US would also like a war on the Korean Peninsula, a war in which South Korea would be used as cannon fodder to destroy the DPRK. So, I mean, in terms of helping, support the cause of Korean reunification, which I think I understand right, I would recommend yourself and others join the Korean Friendship Association, and I would sort of recommend supporting progressive Korean organisations in the US, which campaign for peaceful reunification of Korea and the withdrawal of US troops from Korea. And I believe there was a protest rally held in New York about 1 or 2 weeks ago, which was quite successful. And I mean, there are movements to end the sanctions. Again, progressive Koreans in the US are campaigning to end the sanctions. I mean, we in KFA are obviously strongly against the sanctions. And we've opposed the British government's also got sanctions on the DPRK. And in fact, about a couple of years ago, went out their way to impose special sanctions against the DPRK. So, we have issued statements and campaigned against the sanctions. But it's a hard job, it's trying to get these people to listen, and we need more people involved. We need, more protests, more pickets, to try and bring pressure to bear on the the establishment in the UK and the US and elsewhere. Yes, I mean, perhaps it would be good if you did lobby different US Congress people and senators. I don't know how the US political system works. Oh yes, I mean, I certainly put my YouTube channel and Twitter, etc. It's very easy. Yes, that's right, Sungam 007. I'll just get a link to the channel. Yeah, and I'm on Twitter. Right, that's the YouTube channel. I'm just calling up the Twitter account. You have to bear with this. This computer is very slow and temperamental. Right, I mean, you can also put, we've got different Telegram channels, just see if I can get that one.
All right, folks, I'm going to take these and I'm going to put these into the description of the video. I'm also going to check the chat right now to see if there's any comments or questions right now from the audience.
Okay.
I'm also going to check the...
Right, that's one of our Telegram channels. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a very good interview. I hope to work with you in the future. And, I hope Koreans in the US and progressive people in the US will struggle for the peaceful reunification of Korea and the lifting of sanctions against People's Korea. And excuse me, and we'll also seek to find the truth about the DPRK. Don't believe in the mainstream media. Certainly don't believe in people like Yomi Park. Please seek the truth out about the DPRK. Look KFA up and look up different DPRK websites. But I think it's been great speaking to you, and hope we to speak again in the future. You're welcome.
All right, folks, I'm going to end the show here. Okay, I'm ending the show.
Okay.
Thank you so much.